Welcome to Conversations, where today we are welcoming in Scott Mitchell and Dr. Aidin Brown to explore what it means to create conditions where people, teams, and organizations have the opportunity to flourish. So welcome in, you two. How are you today, Aidin and Scott?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Thanks for asking. And thanks for having me.
Same here.
Yeah,
I'm
excellent.
just looking forward to the conversation.
Me too, because it's always enlightening when I have leaders like the two of you come on and we really start exploring around, like this topic of flourishing. But first, I'd like maybe for you to take a moment and just give the audience a high view, who you are, what you do professionally, and let us know where you're coming to us from today. So who'd like to start?
So, Scott Mitchell, and I currently live just south of Cleveland, so Northeast Ohio. What I do is I am an executive coach and CFO advisor, specifically in the faith-based arena. I've been 40 years. It's amazing to think, okay, 40 years in ministry, working with churches, working with small to medium to larger nonprofits, ministries, and just really enjoy this space.
All right. Well, thanks and welcome, Scott. Dr. Aidin Brown.
All right.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm here in Central Florida, Orlando, Florida. And I wear many hats. I must say I am Jamaican. So one thing we say in Jamaica is that I'm a jack of all trades. So a little bit, I serve as executive chairman for Monarchs Enterprise right here, president for the Association of DSL Professionals, and president for Sapphire Life, which is a nonprofit organization that we have here in Central Florida. I'm looking forward to the discussion on flourishing because this is something that has piqued my interest. And one of the things that we'll be looking at, we recently launched Monarchs Jamaica Limited back in Jamaica. And part of what we're going to be doing leadership workshops and all of that. And we're going to be targeting the Justice of the Peace, which is more of a volunteer role in Jamaica. And I am going to be looking at, introducing flourishing as well, because the event is going to be an executive servant leadership luncheon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeez, you don't let any grass grow under your feet. You are always going, going, going. Good
Dr.
for
Cruz just told me
you.
this morning that I need to make sure I'm getting some rest.
Yes, that's right. Well, thank you for taking the time as well and coming and talking about this conversation about flourishing. And, flourishing is one of those words where, I don't know, you don't always hear it, right? I feel like it's one of those words that maybe is an older word, or maybe it's a new word. And we're just maybe, people are kind of grappling with flourishing a little more. Many times it's attached to well-being, is what I've, been reading and whatnot. So I'd love to hear from both of you. And Scott will give Aidin just a minute to rest a minute after his technical debacle. And when you think
Thank you for
about
that.
when you think about flourishing, what comes to mind for you when you hear that word flourishing?
Okay, so I'm just going to do a riff off of the fact that I'm in Northeast Ohio and we're in the middle of spring. So I'm a hiker. It's what we like to do. And so getting out on a trail and seeing the forest begin to flourish, and all of a sudden, all the leaves and just the green that comes from with the new leaves. So they're not dead leaves, they're new leaves forming on the trees, and life is beginning again.
Oh,
And you see small flowers, you see the butterflies, you see birds that are migrating through, and you've got this flurry of activity.
mhm.
And to me, when you ask that question, that's where my brain went, was out on a trail, You know,
Nice.
everything's fresh, it's new, and it's alive.
Yes, and it's alive. Excellent. Dr. Brown, what about you? What do you think about when you think of the word flourishing?
I remember I was in Canada last October for my niece's graduation. And it's interesting that when you were younger, you used to get these postcards and it had all these scenery on the postcards. And I remember seeing those cards and to actually see the trees, the surrounding the environment in Canada where all the trees are just flourishing in their colors and they're blooming. For me, I'm like, it's where for people living and working in ways that allow them to thrive intellectually, emotionally, socially, physically, and purposefully. Because that's the greatest thing. Because I believe if you're not living in your purpose, then what's the sense? But each of us have a purpose. And flourishing is about becoming the fullest version of oneself for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I love the connection there between the forest and the trails and the blooming. And we have the people blooming, right? And living. And so let's continue on this trail of flourishing, of thriving, of blooming, of living. And when we think about that, let's think about success and achievement. So let's think about maybe leaders in that capacity or, individuals. Doesn't have to be leaders, but individuals in that capacity. So how is flourishing maybe different than success and achievement, if at all?
That's an interesting one, and I'll jump in, Scott. Yeah, because you can be moving and you're not getting anywhere. So
Mm,
for me, success and achievements are often outcome focused, whereby they measure what a person has done, earned, or attained. Rather, flourishing, however, is process focused and holistic. A person can be successful on paper,
mm-hmm,
and some conversations we'd had before, Dr. Wayland, where
mm-hmm,
some people still have their degrees just wrapped up in their frames and wondering what's going on. But yet still, they feel exhausted and disconnected.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
what is my purpose? Why am I doing this? So that's my take on that one.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. What about you,
Well,
Scott?
that kind of connects into what I was thinking in that question is I think of John 15,
Mm,
where it talks about he is the branch, we
yes.
are the vine. And, unless we're truly abiding in Christ, we are not going to flourish.
Mm,
We're going to be that dead branch on the side of the trail.
yes.
And where I see success and achievement is I see those as results
Mm-hmm.
of flourishing and abiding.
Mm-hmm.
So, as when we're talking about our souls, right?
Mm-hmm.
My soul will flourish when I learn how to abide in Him and I stay in that place.
Yeah. And I never see flourishing as like a destination where you flourish and you're done, right? Just
Right.
like, the branches, right? You're clipping so there's new growth.
Hmm.
And that's how I look at it as a process. So although, as you said, we can have success and we can attain things, but we always have to be maybe even asking ourselves, in these, where did I flourish? How did I flourish? What created the attainment and the success?
Right.
And if I may add, Dr.
Yes.
Wayland, these two questions came to mind when I was thinking about the success and achievement. Is achievement when you ask yourself, achievement is basically what have you accomplished versus flourishing asks how well are you living and becoming. And you mentioned something just earlier that draw my mind to this. And as the tree grows, you have to clip, 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 clip. and it grows more and branches come out and Scott talk about the connection. And people, some people might think or feel that for them to grow, they have to be stuck in one place or one shape or form. But flourishing is in many different shape and forms. When we look at the trees, the
Mhm.
branches.
Yeah. And if I can continue with that,
Yes.
you're talking about pruning, right? For it's not just allowing growth without structure or for no
Mm.
reason,
Mm.
but you know, we we require as human beings to be pruned at times, to go through difficult times.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
difficult times, I've noticed it doesn't mean I've stopped flourishing
Right.
because I'm still abiding.
Mm-hmm.
It's just uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
But after that, then more fruit,
Yes.
more success, more achievement comes. It's the result of the pruning, but it's the remaining abiding during that time of stress uh,
Mm-hmm.
and growth. And so when we talk about personal, but even organizationally,
Yep.
sometimes the breakthrough comes after really hard seasons and times in an organization where pruning has to happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And there are conditions, right? Everything there, the conditions need to be right. So even when you're pruning, right? And going through that. So what might be the conditions that need to exist for people to flourish? And that's, maybe personally, professionally. What does that look like? What might it take?
And as we prune the tree has, as we think about pruning, we don't just go start cutting a tree. There's a
mhm,
strategy to this, and you have to be skilled at doing it. And what's the purpose of trimming the tree, of pruning the tree? What's the meaning behind it? And when you look at it from a human standpoint, psychological safety. If I
mhm,
step out, if I go out, if I do this, is the, if I clip this part of the tree, will it fall over here? What will
Mm,
happen if you go that side?
mhm,
And along the process, we'll look at what growth opportunity exists. Because we're going to cut a part of the tree and knowing that, yes, this part will grow back, this part will not grow back.
mm-hmm.
Right. And we have to balance that with well-being as well. So as we look at pruning and we look at the tree and our lives and all of that, the well-being and balance, having that physical emotion to understand and develop the mental resources
Mm,
needed,
mhm.
right? Necessary to sustain as you flourish. And realize fulfillment, I must say.
it sounds like there's some strategy in there.
Well, in when we look at it from even from personal to organizational, we have to be strategic
Mm-hmm.
in whatever we're doing in order to flourish. And one of the things, and I'll make mention of this maybe often, um, recently the Minister of Justice in Jamaica talked about JPs getting more involved in their communities. And what I've learned over the years with servant leadership, I've been doing this before learning servant leadership at university. So I now want to help my fellow JPs to understand that what you're doing, it's a service to the people, not to yourself. So there have to be a way. And one of the main reasons why the minister say that is because there are a lot of issues with JPs. JPs are charging, and that's not what you're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do. It's a free service because you represent the Queen, the King of England. Yes. So it's now how do we strategize and make it work for us? How can we bring transformation to the community, the people that we serve? So flourishing in itself, we now have to look at how do how us as JPs help our community to flourish. So it does require some strategic initiatives.
Yes. Scott, what say you?
Yeah. So, I think there has to be trust. So I've been, in a few organizations throughout my career. I was the one to go in when there's trouble. God brought me in, that's kind of where I thrive is, when there's issues. And so I've always gone into an organization when they were in transition. And the transitions that moved smoothly or smoother, transitions are never smooth, but those that went smoother were those where there was a culture of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order for people, and I know we're going to talk about teams, is in order for them to flourish, they've got to trust
Yeah.
the one in charge. And if we're going back to pruning, right? If a friend of mine is helping God prune me, I have to have a high level of trust in my friend,
That's right.
right? There has to be, Dr. Aidin talked about psychological safety, right? The truth has to be spoken in love,
Mm-hmm. That's
right?
right.
Even when it
But
hurts.
love also
Even when
has
it
to have
hurts.
truth, right? Yeah. So, there's got to be safety. There's got to be a high level of trust. And, to me, those are the conditions that have to be there. And people have to be ready for change.
Mm-hmm. That's
Because
true.
I think
Yes.
flourishing talks about growth to me,
Mm-hmm.
about new things.
Absolutely.
And that is why, Scott, the mind is so important because as we think about it, in order for you to flourish, we have to have an open mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And from a Christian standpoint, we have to know that our lives are not our own. We belong to God. So He
Yeah.
directs our path. The scripture tells us that. So as we go through the pruning and we go through all of that, the conditions, it comes with it that we have to, one, have an open mind. And from an organizational standpoint, as you say, we have to trust trust our leaders. And
Mhm.
as leaders, we have to ensure that we're in a position to even trust our own selves with the decisions that we're making for the people. Because at the end of the day, my philosophy is each person who said that them have who they serve in leadership positions, you are going to be accountable for the people who are under you
That's right.
one day, one day.
That's
Yeah.
right. Big word there. Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah. And I'm wondering, so what if somebody's tuning in and they're like, well, I'm not a Christian. So how would this how would this look for me? Like to flourish or not to believe in something that's the guiding force and whatnot.
Yeah.
What say you there? It's
Well,
still
I think we can all identify in a work environment.
mm-hmm,
I think we probably had enough experience to be at least in one job where there wasn't a level of trust, because trust goes both ways. So, when your boss doesn't trust you, and all of a sudden we feel micromanaged.
yes.
I would say micromanaging that environment is not conducive for flourishing.
That's right.
Okay. So we know what not flourishing is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
So I think for someone that's not of faith, they understand those differences. They know when there's not trust in an organization
Mm-hmm.
or there's not a safety factor. And so as leaders, regardless of whether they're working like I do in a faith-based organization, there is still a need for trust.
Yes.
There's a need for that culture to exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? That allows all people to thrive. Because, you know, as Christians, we believe we are all created by God. So therefore, we each have value.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got to be a person of integrity, of trust for all people.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember years ago, I was sharing with a colleague of mine at a former employment, and I said to her, I saved up enough money to buy a bed. And she smiled. That was like within 6 months or something. And it was almost the end of the year. And I said to her, you know what, Miss Anne? Every year we celebrate our birthdays. We throw big parties, we have food, we have friends and family over. But what are we truly celebrating? What have we accomplished within that 365 days of the year? Did we grow? Did we achieve anything? Were we successful in some of our endeavors? So, what are we really celebrating?
Ooh, I like that. Right. That's a good thought there.
Hopefully, I'll remember it in 11 months.
Which
Oh, I
that
like
and that's why I tell people this that and this goes for our non-believers
Mhm.
or everyone because in order for you to grow, you have to know what is going on with you.
that.
In order for you to move from point A to point B, we have to strategize and we have to think logical because am I growing or am I going?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you're growing, or else you are going.
And we've all got a purpose, don't we?
Yes.
Yes,
And when we
yes.
discover that purpose, and when we're moving towards that and we're growing in that purpose, that I think is when that sense of thriving, flourishing comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
can think of a job, and I list it as my most miserable job. You know, it
We
didn't
all
fit.
have one.
We all have one. Okay.
Yes.
I was in a place that didn't fit who I was, didn't fit my, you know, strengths finder, didn't fit personality. And, you know, it was a very rigid environment. And I went to that position after being a CFO of a large organization. So I was used to overseeing $30 million a year. And now I moved into this career and I learned a whole lot in 2 years, but it didn't fit.
Mm.
It, you know, there are things I brought from it and I learned from it, but I would say I didn't feel like I was thriving in flourishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good thing that you're not
And
still.
if I may add,
Yes.
and at that point, Scott, when we're celebrating that other birthday, that's
Yep.
when we say to ourselves,
Maybe there's something else, but I'd promised my wife I would not change jobs again. But by the end of that one, she's like, you can change jobs. This is not worth any of us because none of us are flourishing.
Oh
or
my gosh, that's right. The effects it does have.
It
Wow.
does.
Well, let's turn our attention to teams and flourishing. So many times we look at, high performing teams, high functioning teams. So, what distinguishes a flourishing team from just like a functional team, a team that's functional? We can bring in, we talked about psychological safety and trust. We can bring that in and anything else that kind of comes to mind with teams and flourishing. What does that look like? Team that's flourishing.
that's an interesting one because the difference lies in the quality of human interaction and the environment that supports them. And as we mentioned about the psychological part of it, I won't stress that too much, but there's one thing that I often say, and I've been saying this of recent. If I don't feel like I belong to a team,
Mm-hmm.
then I will have no purpose here.
Mm,
I won't find a purpose here. I don't think this is the place for me. Because when you belonging basically creates a sense of acceptance.
yes.
but it also waters the creativity, the passion, and the best thinking from the employees at work. So if I feel like I belong, yep, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. This is now where you say initiatives start to show. People start to go above and beyond. People start to extend themselves because I feel like I belong here. There was an organization, and I say this, and I say I'm gonna say this on every opportunity that I get.
Let's hear it.
When I was told to apply for tuition reimbursement at this company, and when I was doing the doctoral degree. And when I got the form, it didn't have anything for doctoral programs, not even PhD, not even PhD. So I said to the director, why would I do this? This says master's or the MBA or other masters. And he said, well, you never know. Just complete it and submit it and yada, yada. I'm like, okay. After 2 attempts, I did it. He asked me twice and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And this is coming, which is alarming. And tell me if you agree with me or not. This is coming from an HR person, an HR person. And I remember a few years ago, I made a presentation and I said, I think this is where HR now, they're confusing themselves between HRD and HRM because they don't know what role they play. The HR manager sent back an email. I saved it because this is going to be my talking point and asked if my doctorate is real. Is
Oh,
this a true, is this a true doctorate degree coming from an HR person? And I can tell you this, I never saw myself belonging there, not growing there. And I'm like, yeah, belonging.
mm, mm,
Because we
yeah,
have to create that place where people feel accepted and
yeah.
wanted. And from an HR person, I'm like, she needs to reconsider her job
Mhm.
because HR, as far as I'm concerned, you don't only manage processes, you manage people.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And how are we creating a flourishing environment?
that's right. Those
Because that
conditions.
person failed. Yeah, she failed.
Yeah,
Because there wasn't no nurturing there for flourishing.
yeah. Gosh, I'm so
Yep.
sorry about that. That's a terrible experience.
Yeah.
Well, we will have this is what creates stories as we go along. So
That's
I
right.
share it every opportunity I get.
There you go.
There's ways to improve HR, isn't there?
That's right.
You know,
Scott, what
yeah.
about you in teams? What do you see as far as how do you look at a team and say, oh, they're flourishing?
When Dr. Aiden was talking, he was talking about the quality of their interactions.
Mhm.
And that got me to thinking down, in a sense, a rabbit trail, because quality interactions create quality results,
Mm,
Amen.
right? And you were touching on that through your conversation. And it was like, when we belong to a team, when we're safe in that team,
right.
you know, we can then have disagreements, true disagreements, because that interaction then allows us to have better results. We're not all yes people,
Hmm.
right? It's not just agreeing with what the leader of the team says we should be doing, but rather there's pushback, there's figuring it out because there are real issues in leadership that need to be addressed, but
Yes.
oftentimes aren't because that belonging, that safety, the trust does not exist.
Yeah. And it takes cultivating those conditions so it can
Hmm.
exist because we could
Yeah.
want it. We could want to
Yeah.
feel like we belong. We can want to trust our team members. We can want all day long, but unless everybody is putting in the effort to create the conditions so yes, I belong to this team and I feel like I belong to this team and I feel that not even that I feel, but I know I can trust my team members. I know that they'll have my back.
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
takes work
Mhm.
beyond the
And
functional part of a team, the working. So these are like the inner workings, maybe, of the team
yeah.
Yeah.
that too many teams forget about, or they don't know. They don't know some of these aspects of teamship that are so important to cultivate.
Yeah. And if I may add, as we look at trust, psychological safety, and belonging, I believe that without these elements, team may perform inadequately, right? But often operate from a compliance standpoint
Yeah.
rather than a commitment standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Compliance
Yep.
versus commitment. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. And Scott, I mean, you're all about compliance, right?
I should be, right? But actually, that's been a lot of when I walk into organizations, um, especially the organizations I walk into are more visionary led.
Mm,
And, you need an interpreter between the compliance accountants in the room and the visionary.
yeah.
And that's oftentimes where I've found my space of going, okay, we can't just go up to the visionary and says, oh, the IRS won't let us do that. One, it's hogwash. We're just hiding behind the IRS. Two, that means they're going to go do it without asking you in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to have a two-way street of trust.
Yeah.
If I'm just saying accounting speak or
Yes.
compliance speak, then I haven't earned the trust of my leader.
Mm,
But I find that if I can get the why, right?
Mm.
If we can have a good dialogue, then trust begins to happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can say no to certain things.
That's right.
But
With
I
love and
typically,
in love.
and in love, it's usually no to this way.
Mhm.
However,
Mm,
you want this as your result. I
Yes.
think we could do it this way.
Yeah.
Would that work? Right?
mhm.
So now, because we've had a full conversation, instead of immediately saying no, but again, I find the visionary has to be open to
True.
having that conversation
Yeah.
rather than just running with their idea. So,
Yeah.
And it goes
um,
back to the conditions. It's creating those conditions,
yeah,
right? So
and
these conversations can happen
right,
openly without people getting, all
mhm,
crazy
right.
and figuring it out together. Yeah.
I would have to say it takes a secure leader
Mm-hmm.
to allow for those under them to flourish
Oh yeah.
and to say and grow maybe even more than they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can't be afraid of a subordinate being better than we are, because there are some, I mean, especially my age, I'm looking at, okay, I've been 40 years in ministry, so therefore am a little older. You know, we got to raise the younger ones up,
That's right.
right? We got to train, upcoming executives,
That's right.
upcoming leaders,
Mhm.
and not worry about them having a better idea than us.
And it's
Or,
okay. We
right?
want to. We want to encourage
Right.
that.
You know, because what happens if we're no longer there?
Mm-hmm.
The organization doesn't thrive, you know? So, yeah, but it's about the intentionality. Um, yeah.
And that's why to add to that, Scott, I often say as a leader, it's not I think my book on Beneath the Crown, Leadership Rooted in Service, Passion, and Purpose,
Mm.
it speaks to leaders. Don't look at your position because I have arrived at,
That's
and
right.
it
Right.
is about me, but it's what goes on beneath that
Mm,
crown is what makes you a leader. What do you
Mm.
do for the people around you? And
Yes.
how many individuals under you can say that they are flourishing, they're growing? And when I remember excuse me, I had a supervisor years ago when I worked at the credit union, and one Saturday we had to go to the ATM machine four times because ATM which was not working, and we keep getting notification. And on the fourth time, I was going home, I was driving my car, someone ran in the back of my car, and all of
Mm.
these things. But why did I do that on a Saturday?
mm,
Why I never complained? Because the leader that I had then was somebody who goes out for her people.
mm.
Hmm. Yeah.
So in that case, when you think of yourself as a leader, how are people below you trusting you to really bring them to a point of flourishing,
Hmm.
bring them to a point where I see purpose, I see value.
Yeah.
And I would want to come here, not because I'm faithful to Monarchs, but I'm faithful to Dr. Brown because of what he has inspired me. And I'll maybe share this for the last of it. I used to mentor a young man back in Jamaica. He migrated, the family migrated. And what is interesting about that mentorship program was I was his brother's mentor, not his mentor. And every time I called to talk with him, my mentee, he would have never talked. So his brother always come on the phone. And we developed that relationship and another friend of theirs. And the family migrated to Cayman. He saw me on Facebook. The family saw me on Facebook. We connected again. And my mentor still haven't said anything. And his brother is the one who actually was following me. And he said, I want to come to America. I want to be where you are.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I'm like, okay. He came here. And I remember that's years ago. And he came here and found love. I, as a notary, performed the ceremony.
That's amazing.
And up to today, he told them when I was doing my final project, and I had that workshop, Dr. Whalen, my workshop for my final project, he flew from Texas to Florida to attend
Oh,
the event, my
Mm.
leadership workshop. And he was just a supervisor. And now he's the operations manager. My event was February. He went back and in April, he had his certificate because we all gave him a certificate. And he took his certificate back and framed it and had it as his desk.
oh.
And his whole demeanor, approach, and everything, within 2 months, he was promoted to manager.
Mm.
Mm.
And he told everybody that story that listen, that man, he's the best mentor I've ever had. He called me his uncle today.
That
So when
is
we look at being
incredible.
in people's life,
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
they flourishing? Are they what is it? How is it that we're impacting their life? And that's a thing that as leaders, we have to say to ourselves at every anniversary that we celebrate in leadership, have I done anything to impact anybody?
Yeah.
So
And you
yeah.
never know who you're going to impact, like in this instance, right?
Right.
Yes.
Brother. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we think about that from that organizational, let's go there. When you think about the markers of a flourishing organization, how do we know it exists?
Mm.
So we talked about the individual, talked about the team. So how do we know at the organizational level the flourishing exists within there?
I think we can consider the responses from employees.
Mm,
Are they engaged?
mm.
Hmm.
Are they trusting leaders or the organization to think of their best interests? Yes, I want to come to work, but is it that I saw something recently where employees, if they're late, they're fined. And I'm like, what are you telling me? That high retention of talented employees. I heard a story where this organization and a CEO was asked, would you fire an employee with 35 years of experience that cost the company $250,000, or would you keep him? And he said, why would I fire all those years of experience? We can make back this $250,000. And the collaboration that we bring across departments, right? And from a holistic approach for the organization,
Mm.
our customers, our internal or external customers, our communities, our stakeholders, what positive impact is that
Yeah.
our operations is creating on those elements?
Hmm. What say you, Scott?
You talked about this collaboration across departments, right? That makes me think of, we've heard of this silo mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I've been in leadership meetings where you have different department heads and they can only think of their department. We can't do this because this will make us do more work. It may help fundraising, but it's going to cost the accounting department to do extra work. And that's where, I'm like, okay, accounting team, we're losing this silo mentality because it's about the fundraising, it's about the programs. It's not about administration at the end of the day. It's about who we're reaching, who we're serving. And so to me, part of that marker is you you have that collaboration between your departments, between especially the leaders. So in the CPA world, we have an expression called tone at the top. And so you kind of know what kind of issues you're going to have with the accounting audit by your interaction with those leading the organization. So if there's a bad vibe when you're interviewing the president, then there's a ding, and you're going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to take a little bit deeper dive into some things because the tone at the top says, we don't really care about compliance,
Right.
right?
Tone it.
But the tone at the top is we don't care about silos.
Mm-hmm.
We have a common purpose, and so there's clarity from the top. There's clear communication. And I'm going to throw out the accountability word.
Yes.
There's clear lines of accountability, but
Yes.
also, you got your job performances, but I'm also going to say you're going to have your development plans,
Yes.
right? So we're not just telling people where they're doing things wrong, we're helping them improve. We're exploring where they would like to grow and how they could then serve the organization better. So we're
Yeah.
really, those are things that I would say talk about a flourishing organization.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that, a flourishing organization exists when people consistently report that they are valued,
Hmm.
when growth is happening, when they are connected and they're inspired by their work,
Yeah,
right? And results matter, but flourishing organizations rather achieve results in ways that strengthen people rather than depleting them.
right. And I would say they have consistent results,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
When your people are flourishing, right, the results are going to happen.
Yes.
Certainly, there may be, I mean, in down economy times, right? There may be times when you have to pull the team together and say, okay, we're struggling.
Mhm.
The financial metrics, because of outside forces, mean we need to make some decisions.
Yeah.
How do we work as a team to make those hard decisions?
Mm. Yeah. Scott, when you mentioned the development plan, I think that it's crucial that organizations understand how valuable that is, not only, for the employee, but for the organization itself, and being able to, not be a box checker for development, but really think about how can we help our people thrive so the organization is seen as a flourishing organization, and really implement and create those conditions so they can, and for leaders to understand the importance of it.
Absolutely, because, but it takes getting to know who works for you,
Oh, yeah.
right? You have to have those conversations, and you can't, for me, I could never say, you're going to be here 5 years. No, it's where do you want to go? Let's not restrict it to just the organization, but
Yes.
I want the best employee. And sometimes that means that they're going to develop to a place that they're going to leave.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But that's okay, because while they're with me, they're going to give their best
That's right.
because
Yeah.
I'm pouring into them.
Mm-hmm.
I am making sure that they as an individual develop.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a part of the pruning process.
It is.
Active pruning.
Right?
Yes. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, wow. What a great conversation, you two. This has been
Oh, it's been
amazing.
fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would love to give each of you a last word here. So, if you could give leaders one piece of advice about creating environments where people flourish beyond what was already said, because there was a lot said, what would it be? And make sure you tell people how to find you too at this point following that. So, what
I'll let
advice would
Scott
you
go.
give?
Yeah.
Scott, what say you?
Okay. So I'm going to say, to have a flourishing organization, it's intentional,
Mm.
right? I'll go back to the hiking, where the woods are just being allowed to kind of do whatever they want. They're getting kind of wild, right? But when you take care of something, it flourishes even more, right? And the weeds are gone. The invasive vines are, not there. It takes intentional effort, and a lot of effort. Culture is not easy, but you can't leave it to its own,
True.
because the unintended consequences happen. I love all things leadership. And so, I am an executive coach as well as a CFO advisor. Oftentimes, organizations come to me because they're struggling. Cash flow is one of those signs, right? The organization's not thriving. We need to make some decisions. It's oftentimes the issue isn't the cash flow, it is a symptom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right.
I can look at a balance sheet, I can look at a, income statement and tell you have other issues. Um, money is just a symptom. So how you can get a hold of me? Got a website. It's breakthroughcoaching.life. As well as you can find me on LinkedIn. It's GS Mitchell NPOBT. So that's short for Nonprofit Organization Breakthrough.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott.
Nice.
You're welcome.
When leaders genuinely care about growth, well-being, dignity, and potential of those they lead, they create cultures where people are willing to trust. Leaders see people as human beings
Mhm.
first and resources second. Flourishing is not something leaders can mandate. It is something that cultivate through consistent actions, authentic relationship, and a commitment to helping people become the best version or the better versions of themselves. The greatest leaders do more than just achieve organizational goals. They create environments where people leave stronger, wiser, and more capable to do more, be fulfilled, right, when they arrived. So when that is what the true measure of leadership and the foundation of human flourishing is. So I'll leave it at that to think about. I'm at Monars Enterprise, www.monars.us, and I'm working on my brand, building my brand. So if you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Aidin Brown, and email address is aidin.brown@monars.us. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you both again for joining me on Conversations. Terrific conversation around flourishing for people, for teams, for organizations. And until next time, you keep doing great things. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.